To many, the SSP, or Service System Proposals, is a mix of parts and pieces that don't quite make sense. It also has been a topic of debate and discussion among many of those who have heard of it. The purpose of this presentation is to help put some of the SSP pieces together so that a picture of the proposals will become clear, leaving you better informed, empowered to ask more questions, equipped with resources to find more information, and better prepared to cast your vote with the upcoming CAR or Conference Agenda Report. Let's begin with a quick look at our current structure. The parts that make up our current service structure are listed here. In 1976, the NA tree outlined our current structure, which is still in use today. The NA tree has since been revised and is called a Guide to Local Services. For a more detailed description of each service position or committee, please see page 45 in our Guide to Local Services booklet, which can be found on na.org. The SSP, or Service System Proposals, came about from a work group tasked with looking into possible solutions to common service-related issues throughout the service structure, such as apathy, duplication of services, communication challenges, and training. The results of that work group was a proposal to completely change our current service structure to the one presented in the SSP. The next slides will take us through the different parts of the proposed system contained in the Service System Proposals. The SSP third draft states that the Group Support Unit, or GSU, is intended to help groups better carry the message within their meetings by separating out the group support function from the business of NA. Although in recent NAS newsletter articles, the World Board has mentioned changing the name of the Group Support Unit to Group Support Forum and the LSU, or Local Service Unit, to the Local Service Conference, for the purposes of this presentation and its adherence to the most recent draft of the SSP, we will be using the terms Group Support Unit, or GSU, and Local Service Unit, or LSU. The GSU will be attended by group delegates and any interested members. Sharing is open for anyone attending the group support unit. The GSU is not intended to be another level of service in that it doesn't usually deliver any services to the fellowship. For instance, this would most likely not be where literature, meeting directories, or newsletters are distributed. It is also not part of the delegation or decision-making stream. The GSU is a discussion-based meeting where group delegates and interested members from the local group share on what's presently going on at their meetings, any issues they are having, and share their own experience, strength, and hope for other group delegates to benefit from, but is to steer clear of any distracting discussions about complex services provided outside the group. In other words, no NA business is to be discussed at the group support unit. The group support unit will be informal with a very relaxed atmosphere. There will be a format but very little structure after that. A facilitator will run the meeting, and the facilitator function can be done by anyone. There is no need for a standing commitment to that duty. It can rotate if the GSU wishes it to. The GSU will provide training or mentoring, although details on how a GSU provides this are not clear in the third draft of the SSP, since the group support unit's informal atmosphere and directive will in no way reflect any other level of service. The GSU, in combination with the local service units, will replace area service committees throughout NA. GSU boundaries will be based on neighborhoods and locality. The GSU and groups will have two options to choose from in regards to having representation at the next level of service, which is the Local Service Unit, or LSU. The linear model is where a group sends one delegate to the GSU. At the GSU, the LSU delegate is selected from the GSU delegates of that group service unit to attend the LSU Annual Assembly and Planning Conferences. NAS is currently leaning away from this option, as it would require the LSU delegate to bring back information and business-related announcements directly to the GSU. This would not be in line with the No Business Directive of the GSU, as such reporting would surely be followed by discussion of outside service issues and topics which the GSU is tasked with avoiding. The other option is the two-track model. In the two-track model, the group sends a delegate to the GSU and also sends the same or elects a different delegate to attend the LSU Annual Assembly and Planning Conferences. The two-track model basically means each group needs to find its own GSU and LSU delegates. The LSU delegate will bring their report directly to the group, ensuring the no business atmosphere of the GSU stays intact. And now we're at the Local Service Unit, or LSU. The greatest number of members will be of service at this level, and it has the responsibility of delivering the bulk of local services. The LSU is open to all, but ideally it would consist of members whose experience in service might better prepare them to deal with the sometimes complex issues encountered at this level. Basically, everyone is welcome, but ideally they would especially like to see members with advanced service experience participate. Where possible, an LSU conforms to county or township geographical boundaries. For example, in Southern California, there may likely be a Riverside County LSU, and a Los Angeles County LSU, and a San Bernardino County LSU. Instead of long-standing commitments to committees such as outreach, H&I, activities, etc., there will be work groups for specific projects. The commitment only lasts as long as the project does by way of the local service board's project-based strategic planning process. Much like an ad hoc committee, when the event is over, the committee disbands. It follows the service priorities or agenda approved of that year by the annual assembly and quarterly planning conferences. There will be routine services such as H&I panels, phone lines, literature supply, and meeting lists that will be overseen by the local service board or a committee. An LSU may send a special invite to veteran members or members with special expertise in a GSU to be of service at the LSU level. LSUs will also utilize human resource pools to hand-select members to be of service at the LSU or on the local service board as needed. The LSU separates NA business from group concerns, allowing members with more exposure to the basics of service and who have already been mentored at the GSU level to carry out such business. As throughout the system, decisions will be made using consensus-based decision-making. Here we have the Local Service Board, or LSB. The LSB, or Local Service Board, is elected at the annual assembly, and it consists of a chair, vice chair, treasurer, secretary, service coordinators for essential services and routine services, and possibly delegates. Although here the SSP states that group delegates attend the LSB, elsewhere it is stated several times that the delegates only attend the planning conferences and annual assembly, not the local service board meetings. The LSB meets monthly or as needed. It oversees the work group's routine services and that the priorities established by the planning committee are carried out. The LSB coordinates and makes arrangements for holding the annual assembly and planning conferences. It also develops the proposed budgets and strategic plans for approval by the planning conferences. The LSB is responsible for maintaining external relationships, but there are not a lot of details in the third draft of the SSP on what external relationships are how. More may be revealed in the future. Examples of routine services are H&I panels, phone lines, literature supply, and meeting directories. These will be overseen by the board or LSB and/or by a committee. It is unclear whether one committee will be overseeing these services or several. Strategic planning is a process of accomplishing a set project-based goal. An example would be having a booth at a professional event. Instead of having a PI subcommittee, there would be a project-based work group that would be in charge of this one task and would disband after the goal is accomplished, very much like an ad hoc committee is now. Other examples of the strategic planning process would be activities such as Unity Days and other events and conventions. The local service board sends a delegate to the next level of service, which is the state, national, province level. Here we have the annual assembly and planning conferences. There are 3 to 4 planning conferences, beginning with the annual assembly, which happens once a year. Planning conferences then follow, most likely quarterly. The annual assembly is attended by group and/or GSU delegates, local service board members, project coordinators, and interested members. Everyone can participate to contribute input. The annual assembly is the first of the year's planning conferences. The local service board submits proposals of work groups and projects and the budgets to fulfill them for approval at the annual assembly. It sets the year's goals and agenda for the fellowship within that LSU. The following planning conferences are for the LSB, or Local Service Board, and other LSU members to report on the progress of the year's projected goals. As throughout the system, decisions will be made using consensus-based decision-making. The LSB is responsible for planning the annual assembly and planning conferences. Next comes the intermediate body. LSU delegates attend the intermediate body, but it is unclear in the third draft at this point who else would make up the intermediate body. The intermediate body is flexible, meaning its boundaries can change as needed. A clear need must be established to create an intermediate body, such as density, distance, or language. It is unclear who the need needs to be established to. The intermediate body is not meant to be a way to keep already defined regions intact by renaming them intermediate bodies. The intermediate body would enable LSUs to combine and consolidate the LSU delegates that would go on to represent the LSUs at the state, national, province body, or SNP body, which is the next level of service. An example would be California, which has 58 counties, and so there may possibly be 58 LSUs. The intermediate body, if we have one, could decide it is best to consolidate the number of LSU delegates to half of that amount and only send 29 LSU delegates on to the SNP body conference to represent all the LSUs in the state. The intermediate body will help LSUs to share services if needed. More to come on that as NAS gathers more information in regards to ASCs or Area Service Committees who currently share services and how they do so. Here we have the State National Province Body, or SNP body. The SNP body is attended by LSU delegates, the SNP administrative body, necessary service or project leaders, and interested members. Public relations with statewide government professional bodies such as correctional institutions and treatment facilities will be a major focus of the SNP body. The SNP body will organize assemblies and conventions. Another goal of the SNP body would be to centralize resources wherever possible, such as phone lines, websites, and service offices. This could mean one phone line, one website, and one service office for an entire state, nation, or province. The SNP body is our link to the World Service Conference through the SNP delegate or delegates sent on to the World Service Conference to represent that state, nation, or province. Much of the service provided by a state, national, province body will require specific skills, training, and expertise outside of that which we learn as recovering addicts. In other words, those with professional experience will most likely be best suited to serve on this body. Many current regional boundaries will be dissolved and merged with neighboring regions in order to comply with the new state, nation, province boundaries. Two of the main aims of the dissolution of regions are to have more effective public relations with government and professional entities and to reduce seating at the World Service Conference. Next is the World Service Conference, or WSC. Only state, national, province service bodies will be seated at the World Service Conference. Many current regions may need to dissolve and merge with neighboring regions to be represented at the WSC. Arrangements for large states and countries are still being discussed. Small countries or states may need to group together to be seated. As throughout the system, consensus-based decision-making will be used wherever possible. A few questions to ask ourselves as we consider the SSP might be, is it necessary? Is it practical? Is it in line with our traditions? Does it address the issues? Are there needs our current structure has not or cannot address with the resources we already have? Are regional boundaries best formed by the fellowship or by geographical lines? Are there other ways we can address service-related issues on our own, locally, and within our current structure? In closing, we encourage you to continue to ask questions about the SSP, gather information, and share information with others. Look for the CAR report in November and vote your conscience at your home groups. We hope that this presentation has helped to put some of the pieces together in regards to the SSP and what it proposes. Another important report to look for at the end of the year is the CAT, or Conference Approval Track, which may likely contain an implementation plan of the SSP that needs to be considered. Ask your RD to workshop both of these important reports. All information contained in this presentation can be found in the third draft of the service system proposals located on na.org, as well as on the handout provided at WCNA 2013 titled Local Services as described in the third draft service system proposals if you attended that group service forum workshop. Please feel free to share this presentation.